A key contributor in the much improved 2023 Minnesota Vikings defense under Brian Flores is third round pick Mehki Blackmon out of USC.
Hmm.
Now, the Vikings selected him round three, number 103 overall. There were some fans that were scratching their heads a little bit questionable. There was some there were some other cornerbacks still out there that some fans may have liked a little more. I know Kaylee Ringo out of Georgia was one of them. But Mehki Blackmon, when you really looked into him as a player, you really did feel like he was a good fit for the Brian Flores defense. Like
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
his college highlights, he was maybe a little too handsy at times, which got him into some trouble. But and you can get away with it in college and the pros, not so much. But I think he was a man cover corner and he was aggressive. And going into the Brian Flores defense, like I think a lot of people started to think this guy could be a good fit. And so far, where we're at this season, I mean, I know you're a huge fan. He's really kind of
Hmm.
stepped in.
Hmm.
He's played some really good snaps for this team.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, actually, first off, anybody watching here, if you can like the video, appreciate it big time. And if you like what you're watching, please hit that subscribe button. But yeah, I mean, I do like what I said. And one of the biggest predictions I had this season was that Mehki Blackmon would take over that cornerback 2 spot from a Caleb Evans, and we'll dive into that a little bit deeper in a second here. But I mean, with the play of Byron Murphy, which has kind of just been up and down, is Mehki, at least from a coverage standpoint, you're almost starting to wonder, is Mehki Blackmon our best coverage cornerback, or arguably our best cornerback in general? Because he's really obviously, like you said, like in training camp and everything like that. I mean, he started kind of slow. That you heard of, but I mean, he had a good preseason, and we've seen good plays up to him until this point. In these last 3 games, he has really looked good. I know you have some more stats on him that you might have
Yeah.
wanted to talk
I
about
mean,
before I kind of dive into what I've found on PFF about him.
for sure. Like I know you mentioned cover corner, and this year so far in the games
Mm-hmm.
that he's played, which he has played most games, if not all of them here, he's at least played a snap in every game this season. He's allowing 52.4% reception percentage against his receivers, and he's only allowing quarterbacks throw for a 64.8 quarterback rating against him. So he's been looking pretty solid so far this year. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, cornerback. They do say cornerback is one of the hardest positions to transition between college to pros. For
Mm-hmm.
a lot of reasons. Obviously, you're going against really, really talented receivers. Like, I mean, just think of the teams he's played this year and some of the receivers that he's had to step in there and go against. The fact he's putting up these kind of numbers so early on in his career is pretty impressive. He just had his first interception
Yep. Yep.
against the Saints. I mean, sure, it was the pass rush definitely influenced that one by making Jameis kind of do what Jameis does and toss up easily interceptable ball. But he was really in really good coverage on that route regardless. And yeah, man, I really like what I'm seeing from him so far.
Yeah, yeah. Let me jump into a little bit deeper to give you an insight of not just us thinking like he's making his way, not gaining more playing time, but he's making his way into a starting spot as a cornerback. As we were talking about this season, and I mentioned the Caleb Evans thing. All right, and I'll dive into some PFF stuff here. And I got right away here. We got Mehki Blackmon, and these are his grades, which are extremely solid. You got him with an overall 74.6, run defense 69.8, and in coverage a 74.1. And you compare that to guys like Byron Murphy, who has an overall of 51.7, run defense 49.7, pass rush 39, and a coverage grade of 55. And we're focusing on the coverage grade, 74.1, 55.2. And then you go to Caleb Evans, and he has a 60 coverage grade, 63.2 overall, run defense 70, pass rush 66.8. Yes, you can say Mehki Blackmon obviously has not been on the field as much as these two players this year, but you can see the talent is out there. And another thing you can look at is I talked about it, how he's been stepping up of late. And if you look at his last 3 games, I mean, he had a 90.1 defensive grade 3 games ago against the Packers with coverage 90.2. Came down a little bit with the 66.5 on defense and 65.7 in coverage, but came back in this last game against New Orleans, where Byron Murphy did not have that great of a game with a 76.6 defensive overall grade, but a 76.9 in coverage, which is huge. And then you jump into this game specifically against the Saints, and you do see a Caleb Evans here at top with the 81.3, and he did have a pretty good game, especially from a tackle standpoint, which he has been fantastic throughout the year from a tackling. This was a really good coverage game from a Caleb Evans, but we see him get beat a pretty decent amount, I would probably say here. But one thing to look at is their total snaps here. And you see a Caleb Evans 39 and Mehki Blackmon 36. And it just shows you that Mehki Blackmon is making his way up to getting more and more playing time. And then, I mean, I'll come back down here, the 59.4 Byron Murphy with a 63.4 in coverage. So, I mean, according to PFF and looking at their grades, you do wonder, like, is Mehki Blackmon, does he deserve to even get more playing time? Does he deserve a chance to start covering some of the other team's best wide receivers? And I know on Byron Murphy, he is covering the other best wide receivers. Of course, his grades and stuff are probably going to be down from that. But I do think when you're just from the eye test alone, you take the numbers away from it, it really does seem that Mehki Blackmon is the better one-on-one coverage of the three, maybe even right now. But especially, I mean, it's getting to the point where you're gonna see him more and more out there. So I don't know. I think it's huge by the rookie, and it's huge by Kwesi for making that pick. And I'm assuming it was influenced by Brian Flores quite a bit, because he is like the perfect type of cornerback for this defense. But yes,
definitely. I mean, and then eventually, do you even maybe consider him getting snaps over Byron Murphy and having a Caleb Evans and Murphy both out there, together in that way? Obviously, I mean, I saw on that list, Andrew Booth was graded pretty highly. I mean, he's getting, the low tens of, 10, 12 snaps a game, but he's looked a little bit better as well. So, I mean, do you start pulling Byron Murphy out and sharing the snaps more with the younger guys? I mean, I think it's a definite possibility with how well they played. I mean, yeah, like you said, at Caleb Evans, you do see him get beat every now and then. But the one thing you do notice, I mean, when you look at the PFF grades for sure, is a lot of sound tackling cornerbacks on this team, which is obviously one of the things you really want to see, especially to go along with how well our safeties tackle as well. But yeah, man, I mean, I think Mehki Blackmon, like, the more you sit here and look at it, I mean, again, people may not like the pick, may not have liked the pick at the time, but right now, man, he is looking like exactly what this team needs. And who knows how long Brian Flores will be here, but hopefully, he's a mainstay in this defense, which A, what he's learned from Brian Flores, and B, what he will continue to learn. Yeah, man, he may be a mainstay here, and this may have been one of the better picks of Kwesi's 2 drafts. I mean, obviously the first draft, you're not saying a lot, but man, you really feel like he has an amazing opportunity to be a good corner for this team for a long, long time,
especially in coverage. And that's what we need more than anything and going forward. So, I mean, hey, hats off to Kwesi on that pick. And I mean, hats off to Mehki Blackmon, just getting better every week and continuing to improve and eating into some of these cornerback snaps. And he's deserving what he's getting here. So
let us know your thoughts on Mehki Blackmon down in the comment section. Would you like to see him get more playing time? Let us know. And we'll see you guys next time right here on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.